Welcome to a new episode.
Hello and welcome back to the Copper Excellent Podcast, a podcast for students, apprentices and future tradespeople building real careers in construction, plumbing, heating and building service engineering. As always, I'm Chris Bailey, and today's episode is all about something that might not sound flashy at first, but honestly, it can make the difference between a smooth running system and a full-on site disaster. We're talking about types of maintenance. Now, if you're studying plumbing, heating or building service engineering T-level, this is one of those topics that can seem simple on paper, but when you step on site or someone's home or into a commercial building with hundreds of people relying on a system to work properly, you quickly realise maintenance is not just a checklist. It's responsibility, it's preservation, and sometimes it's the thing that stops a small issue becoming a very expensive problem. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two calls come in. The first one is routine. A heating engineer is booked to service a boiler, check safety valves, inspect controls and make sure everything is running as it should be. Nice and orderly, planned, professional. The second one comes in at 6:30 on a freezing winter's morning. Burst pipes, no heating, water going through the ceiling, panic everywhere. Both situations involve maintenance, but they fall into two very different categories. And if you understand these two categories properly, you're already thinking more like a skills tradesperson. So let's break it down in a simple way. In building services engineering, maintenance generally falls into two main types. We have planned preventative maintenance, often called PPM, and reactive maintenance, sometimes called corrective maintenance. That's the core of today's episode. And once you understand the difference, a lot of these things start to make sense. Why systems should be serviced regularly, why records matter, why timeframes change, and why some engineers spend their day preventing problems while others spend their day solving emergencies. So grab a brew, settle in, and let's get into this week's episode.
Bridging the gap with questions from you.
Before we get in deeper into the two types, let's answer a really important question. Why is regular maintenance important for tools, machinery and appliances? Because everything wears out. That's it. That's the truth. Anything mechanical, electrical or water-based is under stress. Parts move, seals age, sediment builds up, controls drift out of adjustment. Small faults creep in quietly. A lot of systems don't fail all at once. They whisper before they scream. A dripping tap starts with a worn washer. A noisy boiler starts with a small issue. An overflow doesn't usually become a problem in 1 minute. It becomes a problem because something was missed, ignored or delayed. And this is one of the biggest mindset shifts for students and apprentices. A good engineer doesn't just know how to fix things. A great engineer knows how to spot them early. That's where planned maintenance comes in.
Follow us where you get your podcasts from.
So what is planned preventative maintenance? Well, PPM is exactly what it sounds like. It's maintenance that is planned in advance and carried out at regular intervals to help identify possible failing components, keep a system working as it's its best, reduce the chance of breakdowns and improve reliability and performance. Think of these like looking after your own body. If you eat well, sleep properly and keep active, you reduce the chance of a bigger health problems later. It doesn't guarantee nothing will ever go wrong, but it massively improves your chances. PPM works the same way. In large building service installations, planned schedules are especially important because there's too much at stake to wait for failure. A school can't easily function without heat, a care home can't afford hot water failures, and a hospital definitely can't rely on we'll fix it when it breaks. So instead of waiting for chaos, engineers inspect, test, service, adjust, clean and record. That's skilled professionalism. Now, for those for you plumbing, heating, gas pathways, typical PPM activities may include checking and setting float operated valves to the correct level, cleaning sediment from cold water cisterns, routine boiler maintenance and servicing, checking and rewashing taps, testing above ground drainage systems, checking safety valves, and checking external controls like stop taps, motorised valves, and thermostats. What I like about this list is that it shows maintenance is not always dramatic. Sometimes excellent maintenance looks ordinary. It's not glamorous to clean sediment from a cistern. It's not exciting to reset a valve or inspect a thermostat. But these small, regular actions are exactly what keeps systems dependable. And in this trade, dependable matters. Because when people turn on a tap, they expect water. When they turn up the thermostat, they expect heat. When a building safety system is needed, it has to work. That reliability is built long before the emergency ever happens. Now, here's something students sometimes overlook because it sounds admin heavy. All maintenance activities should be recorded in a maintenance log. That means that tasks carried out, that checks made, any tests completed, and the results. Why does this matter? Because memory is not a system. Documentation is. If you come back to a proper 6 months later, a proper maintenance record tells you what was checked before, what condition components were in, whether test results changed, whether an issue is getting worse, what action may be needed next. It protects the engineer, it supports the customer, and it helps the next person who works on the system. Think of the logbook like a service history on a vehicle. If you've got good records, you can spot patterns, prove compliance, and make better decisions. And from a student's point of view, this is worth remembering. Being good in the trades isn't just about tools in your hands. It's also about professionalism in your process. Turn up, check properly, record clearly, and leave accurate information. And that is what builds trust.
If you're enjoying this podcast,
Please leave us a review.
Now let's move into the second category, reactive maintenance. This is the maintenance that happens after a fault occurs. Something breaks, something fails, something stops working. Then the engineer is called in to correct it. Typical examples include burst pipes, boiler breakdowns, blockages, dripping taps, running overflows, and no heat or hot water. Reactive maintenance is a side of the trade many people picture first. It's the emergency call out, the urgent repair, the customer standing there worried, cold, stressed, or frustrated. And yes, reactive work is a major part of the job. You absolutely need the skills to diagnose and fix faults under pressure. But here's the real lesson. Reactive maintenance is often more disruptive, more stressful, and more expensive than planned maintenance. PPM is so valuable. Let's say an apprentice ignores a minor overflow issue because it's only small. A few weeks later, the customer gets water damage, mould risk, and a much bigger repair bill. Or imagine a boiler hasn't been serviced, a component wears down, efficiency drops, then one freezing morning, the whole system stops. Now the job is no longer a calm planned visit, it's now urgent. Now the customer is upset, now people are uncomfortable, maybe even vulnerable. Reactive maintenance matters because failures still happen. But the smarter systems reduce avoidable failures through planned care. Another key point for learners is this: not every system is the same. In the building services engineering sector, there are a lot of different systems that need both planned and reactive maintenance. These can include heating systems, boiler systems, water systems, firefighting equipment, fire detection and smoke alarm systems, intruder alarm systems, wiring and electrical installation systems, ventilation systems, air conditioning systems, drainage systems, lighting systems, including emergency lighting, and communication and data systems. That's a huge range, and the reason this matters is because each system has its own risk, usage pattern, and maintenance requirements. A drainage system has a different issues from a smoke alarm system, an air conditioning system behaves differently from a domestic tap, and a hospital heating system has totally different demands compared with a small holiday home. So one of the habits you want to build as a student is this: never assume one maintenance approach fits everything. Good engineers look at what the system does, how often it is used, how critical it is, what happens if it fails, and who depends on it. That's how you begin to think professionally instead of just mechanically. And a quick but important note here, where boiler servicing and repairs are involved, that work must be carried out by a gas-safe registered engineer where required. That's not just best practice, that's about legal compliance and consumer safety. Okay, so this is where students often ask, okay, but how do you know how often maintenance should happen? And the answer is, well, timeframes are usually based on how much a system is used and for how long. That's such an important principle. Let's compare two examples. A domestic central heating system in a holiday home might only be used for 12 hours a day and only for 3 months of a year. In that case, a yearly check may be adequate. Now compare that with an industrial or commercial heating system in a hospital, running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That system is under constant demand. So the time between planned maintenance tasks need to be shorter. Perhaps every 3 months rather than every 12 months. This is a brilliant real-world example because it shows that maintenance planning is not random. It's based on logic, usage, risk and consequence. The more heavily something is used, the more frequently it may need to be checked. The more critical the system, the less acceptable failure becomes. And in places like hospitals, there should always be a backup supply to ensure continuity if the main system fails. That's a powerful reminder on how serious building services can be. For some people, maintenance means comfort. For others, it means safety. For some environments, it can even affect life-critical services. So if you're a student thinking it's only maintenance, no, it's never only maintenance. It's keeping that built environment working for real people. Okay, so let's bring this back to you. If you're revising a topic, working on an assignment or preparing for practical work, here's what I want you to remember. Understand the difference clearly. PPM equals planned, scheduled and preventative maintenance. And reactive maintenance is unplanned, fault-based and corrective. Second reminder, the purpose of PPM. Identify failing parts early, maintain optimum performance, reduce breakdowns and keep records for future reference. Third, know the examples. If you can talk confidently about float-operated valves, sediment in cold water cisterns, boiler servicing, rewashering taps, drainage tests, safety valves and controls, you'll sound like someone who understands the real work, not just a textbook. Fourth, remember the different systems need different plans. And finally, understand the maintenance intervals depends on usage and importance. That one idea alone will help you answer a lot of questions in college, on assessments and on site. And let me say this too. If you're an apprentice and you sometimes feel like the maintenance jobs are the boring jobs, don't make that mistake. Maintenance teaches observation. It teaches routine, it teaches standards, and it teaches how systems behave when they're healthy. And that knowledge makes you much better at diagnosing faults later. In other words, today's routine check builds tomorrow's troubleshooting skills. That's how good tradespeople are made. So what's the big message from today? Well, maintenance is not just about fixing what's broken. It's about understanding systems, protecting performance, reducing risk and keeping buildings functioning properly for the people that use them every day. Planned preventative maintenance helps you stay ahead. Reactive maintenance tests how well you respond when something goes wrong. And both are part of becoming a capable, trusted professional in the trade. If you can understand both, explain both and apply both, you're building more than just technical knowledge. You're building judgment. And in this industry, judgment is gold. If you're studying plumbing, heating, construction or building services, keep going. Even the topics that seem straightforward now are laying the groundwork for skilled engineers you're becoming. One day, the details you're learning in class, maintenance schedules, service checks, timeframes, controls, safety devices and records will be the exact thing that helps you solve real-world problems for real people. So take pride in learning the basics well. Because in the trades, the basics are never basic. They are the foundation. Thank you for listening to the Copper Connection podcast with me, as always, Chris Bailey. If this episode has helped you understand maintenance a little more clearly, make sure you follow, subscribe, and share the podcast with a friend, classmate, or fellow apprentice. And if you want more practical, student-friendly episodes that break down trades knowledge into real-world understanding, stay connected with the Copper Connection podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you in the next episode.
We'll be back next week. In the meantime, please subscribe and thanks for listening.